Welcome, crypto fam, to the #1 daily Bitcoin pod. In today's show, I'll be sharing the latest Bitcoin technical analysis as Bitcoin was pushing towards 70,000. Then we started dumping off the back of the news of that $2 billion being transferred from the US government. All eyes on a potential dump before Donald J. Trump takes office, which is pretty sad. So I'll be discussing all of this here today. We'll also be discussing Plan B. Says the price is set to double to 134,000 per coin in the next 3 to 5 months. I'll be breaking all down this analysis. We'll also be discussing Bitfinex hacker Heather Morgan spotted at the Bitcoin conference. That's right, she's not in jail. And this is the one responsible for that $2 billion Mt. Gox hack. We'll also be discussing Ethereum ETF launch drives $2.2 billion worth of inflows, as well as Fundstrat's Thomas Lee says the Fed rate cuts can trigger a massive Bitcoin explosion to 100,000 per coin or even higher after the Mt. Gox resolution. We'll also be discussing Senator Cynthia Lummis proposes the United States accumulates 1 million Bitcoin amid record level national debt, as well as RFK Jr. Only Bitcoin can guarantee the US dollar's reserve currency status. I'll also be sharing his highlights and 4 pledges of executive orders he's going to take into action if elected president of the United States. Virtually all the highlights from the Nashville event, as well as the recent interview he just gave with Natalie Brunell and Cointelegraph, etc. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. All this, plus so much more in today's show. If you're new to the channel, very important to smash the likes and subscribe. And if you can hit the bell icon to turn on all notifications, it's always greatly appreciated, family. Today is pod episode 1715. I'm your fearless host, JV, and today is July 29, 2024. Lots happening in the market, so let's just dive right in. Let's kick it off with our market watch. Bitcoin was pumping on its way to 70, just had a little correction off the back of some news. I'm going to be sharing why I believe we start dumping all of a sudden, but we're still above 67.3, so no biggie. But anyways, Ether still in the green, XRP in the green, Bitcoin Cash in the green, BNB, ADA, and BTC in the red. And checking out CoinMarketCap.com. The current crypto market cap sits at $2.41 trillion. The Bitcoin market cap sits at $1.3 trillion, roughly 80 billion worth of volume for the past 24 hours, up roughly 31%. Bitcoin dominance still maintaining above 55% at 55.1%. And Ether dominance barely on the rise, again at 16.5%. Checking out the top 100 crypto gainers for the past 24 hours. We got the Boca Meme up 13%, BSV up 12%, MOG up 8%. Below that, Bitcoin Cash, Immutable, Brett, Maker, Beam, and Aave. Which alts, if any, are you bullish on for the bull? Holla. And checking out the crypto bubble so we get a visual perspective on the daily. Good to see the majority of the market in the green. I'd say 80-20, green over red. But zooming out on the monthly for a broader perspective, similar, I'd give it around 80-20, some impressive gainers overall. But keep in mind, we had a very bearish month of June. And now July, I think we're going to get a pretty strong green monthly candle close, as we only got 2 days left here of the month. And checking out the Crypto Greed and Fear Index. Today, we're 74 greed. Yesterday, 71. Last week, a 70. And last month, a 30 in fear. So there you have it, my crypto fam. That's what's popping in the market. Let's first start with the technical analysis. Bitcoin pushed towards 70,000, 6% needed for an all-time high, right before we start dumping at least. Bitcoin closed in on the 70,000 mark today, posting a 7-week high and falling short of its all-time high by just 6%. This brought the asset within almost 6% of the all-time high of 73.8, which occurred mid-March on the 14th. It is the highest Bitcoin has traded since June 13th when it hit 70,000, but found resistance and retreated. Titan of Crypto shared that 110,000 is programmed as the asset is breaking out from the handle of a cup and handle chart pattern. I've been covering that on the weekly chart. It sits at about 126,000. Recent Bitcoin positive sentiment has been driven by 2 United States presidential candidates and a prominent Republican Party senator at the Bitcoin 2024 Nashville conference. Independent presidential candidate RFK Jr. and Senator Lummis spoke about establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the U.S., while former President Trump said the government wouldn't sell any more if he got elected. Should this come to pass, it could apply to a lot of buying pressure Bless you, Nipsey. And a potential supply shock for the Bitcoin market. Now, additionally, the PCE index rose 0.1% in June, increasing confidence in an interest rate cut. September, as inflation comes under control. There will also be a Federal Reserve meeting on July 31st, during which another rate decision is expected. However, the market expects the Fed to keep rates unchanged. CME Group predicts odds 95.9% that the rates will remain at 5.25% to 5.5%. Signals are strengthening for a rate cut for September, with the odds at 85.8% for a cut to 5% to 5.25%, which would be the first reduction since March of 2020. Now, before I pull up the live charts, here's what's really breaking and moving right now. Shout out Plan B. He made a very bold prediction a few hours ago. Miner revenue bottomed after the April 2024 halving. I expect the Bitcoin price to double from today in 3 to 5 months. And at the time he made that prediction, it means Bitcoin will be 174,000 within 3 to 5 months. And I think that means before the end of the year. So 134,000 Biddy, according to Plan B, creator of the Bitcoin stock to flow model. Let me know if you agree or disagree. And in other news, Hong Kong lawmaker follows Trump in proposing strategic Bitcoin reserve. Hong Kong, let's go. You already know Hong Kong got the ETFs. Well, now they're looking to make Bitcoin a strategic reserve. This is big news off the back of the recent Nashville conference. So Hong Kong, let's get it. And also, here's what's probably crashing the market right now. Justin, U.S. government sends $2 billion worth of Bitcoin to a new address. But just to clarify, new address doesn't necessarily mean they are selling, but it's a huge red flag. I mean, they just moved it after Trump made an announcement over the weekend that he is not going to sell any Bitcoin if he is elected president of the United States. And you got to be able to read between the lines because we're dealing with corrupt mofos. So I wrote, this is just my intuition, U.S. government about to sell $2 billion in Bitcoin before Trump gets elected. There's no guarantee they're going to sell. I'm just assuming, just to be clear. However, check this out. Max Kaiser shared the following off the back of Dylan LeClaire's post from Jameson Lopp. And look at this. Look at this 20 minutes. The U.S. national debt hits $35 trillion, the most ever. U.S. government moves $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. Breaking. U.S. announces $1.7 billion in new security assistance for the Ukraine. Now, could they potentially sell $2 billion worth of Bitcoin that they're currently holding and send it to the Ukraine in a money laundering scheme as they have been doing forever? Abso-freaking-lutely. I mean, we're dealing with as Max put here, a kleptocracy. That means a government run off of greed. And that describes the United States government to the mother-frickin' T. Kleptocracy. Kleptocracy is word of the day. Kleptocracy. Kleptocracy. Repeat it with me. So yeah, Max wrote, it makes sense the looters would sell the U.S. government Bitcoin now while they still can. I am sure they'll sell the 100,000 Bitfinex BTC as a part of the 200,000. And guess what? They don't even really own it. They confiscated it from the people. They got to give it back. So it makes you wonder. And he also wrote, I get that Trump's comments on RFK gave people the sugar high. But keep in mind, America is a kleptocracy. America, we love you. But at the same time, he's preaching facts right here. It's 100% a kleptocracy, family, driven by greed. Now, David Bailey, the one who put on the event over at Bitcoin Magazine that didn't want Kamala to speak for good reason, check what he just wrote. Just landed in Miami and see the Harris administration preparing to dump 30,000 Bitcoin just to spite Trump would be a massive political blunder for the Dems. If they continue plundering America's Bitcoin, they will permanently spurn a generation of voters. I agree with that 100%, especially with they're coming out trying to make it look like the Democrats have a positive stance on Bitcoin. We don't care what you say, Dems. Show us what you mean by your actions. And of course, history. This is the first Bitcoin ever owned by a president of the United States. This is the Bitcoin in which was gifted to Trump when he came on stage before he gave the the announcement at the Nashville conference. Pretty sexy. I guess back in the good old days, there were some physical biddies. Now they're all digital, clearly, but nonetheless, I digress. Let me know your thoughts with this Bitcoin on the move right now. Again, $2 billion worth of Bitcoin just moved from the U.S. government wallet to another wallet. Let me know your speculation, fam. I'll read that out loud. But first, let's get to some of the live charts. Here's the 1 month chart on your screen right now. Let me switch the scene so it's so fresh and so clean. Boom. So there you go. 67.2-ish right now. This is the 1 month chart. I think we're going to get a green close here in a couple of days. Let me know your thoughts on that. And let's zoom in from here to get different looks. Here's the 1 week, which is the most bullish Bitcoin chart. It shows you a massive bullish flag formation with a cup and handle pattern sitting just shy of 126,000 as of today. And you can see with the weekly closes, they've been big green candles as well. Obviously, we just had a red candle for this week for yesterday's close, but we'll see how we continue here. Still very bullish overall on the chart. Let's now look at the 1 day, and then we'll pull up the 4 hour. Here's the 1 day chart. You can see we had that corrective red candle right where we're currently at. But prior to that, we had been pumping. I mean, we're on the cusp of reclaiming 70,000 before the recent pullback. And checking out the 4 hour chart, you can see two big red bearish candles, unfortunately. And let's just check out the 1 hour. Here we go, the 1 hour chart. Yikes. So yeah, we have a target sitting at all the way down at $54,200. But anyways, there's some of the live charts. Let's discuss this Bitfinex hack, shall we? Yeah. So yeah, Bitfinex hacker Heather Morgan spotted at the Bitcoin conference. Can't make this ish up. Heather Morgan, sometimes known as our alter ego, RazzleCon, a self-styled social engineer and flamboyant rapper, made headlines after pleading guilty to one of the most audacious cyber heists in history. The 2016 Bitfinex hack of 120,000 Bitcoin worth $4.5 billion at her time of arrest. Good Lord. And again, 100,000 of this Bitcoin belongs to the people who had their Bitcoin on the exchange and not the US government. So again, things that make you go, Contrary to popular belief that she was behind bars, Morgan reportedly appeared at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville, sparking curiosity and controversy amongst the attendees. Her presence at several crypto conferences has left the crypto community buzzing with speculation. And shout out Jameson Lopp on this tweet for actually bringing it to the community's attention, because obviously I wasn't at the event. I wouldn't have never known. So here's what he wrote. Public service announcement. Heather Morgan, aka RazzleCon, is a self-proclaimed social engineer who pleaded guilty to hacking Bitfinex for 120,000 biddies back in 2016. I crossed paths with her, this week. After asking around, I discovered she was spotted at multiple Bitcoin events over the past year. It's extremely suspicious that she is still walking free and hasn't been sentenced for her crimes. I recommend all Bitcoin event organizers treat her as a threat actor and deny entry. Now, let me know if you got to see her at the event. If anyone spotted her, let me know. So yeah, wow, had dinner with her last night. I didn't know this. She told me she was a web advisor. Whoa, that's freaking crazy. This is why I put out the alert. Most folks don't know her background. And then someone wrote, she hands out stickers. Not a huge security risk in the grand scheme of things, in my honest opinion. Look at that sticker. Good Lord. Wrestling a gator. There's only one RazzleCon. I would not downplay the danger of interacting with a known social engineer who is likely to be working for the state. I'm glad he mentioned that. I'm retweeting that. I got my Bukelenomics conspiracy cap on, and that's what my intuition tells me. The fact she's not in prison right now. Maybe she worked for the state to hack Mt. Gox as a enemy strike against the Bitcoin community. An enemy strike. That's what I'm starting to think. Let me know your thoughts, family. And then someone wrote, wait, am I supposed to be scared she's going to hack me or she's going to rat on me? If she is working with and equipped by the feds, it's all on the table. Thank you, Jameson. He spoke what I, had in the back of my mind. So anyways, I'd be very weary of this lady, family. Once Morgan pleaded guilty on July 13th of this year, she knew she could face up to 5 years in prison and receive a fine of $250,000. Since then, she's been awaiting her sentence. Who cares? Oh my God, a $250,000 fine while she just hacked $6 billion. Morgan's husband and partner in crime is currently under house arrest. I mean, why isn't he even in jail? Meanwhile, Ross Ulbricht is serving 2 life sentences. Does this ish add up, family? Let me know. He remains free on bail. According to Judge Howell, Lichtenstein played a far more significant role in planning the hack than his wife. You sure it wasn't government? which warranted stricter measures. Additionally, his connections to Russia heightened concerns about him being a flight risk, as Carol Goforth, University of Arkansas School of Law professor, explained. So why is Morgan attending the events? If an individual is about to be sentenced to jail for several years and is impending administrative fees, such as a $250,000 fine, why would they be attending an event? $1 million question, right? Jameson Lopp, Bitcoin developer, co-founder, Bitcoin custody firm Casa, found her presence extremely suspicious. He advised Bitcoin event organizers to regard her as a threat, as I just read out to you. Lopp's concerns highlight the broader unease within the crypto community regarding Morgan's intentions and potential risks she might pose to these gatherings. Lopp told Cointelegraph he believes there could be two explanations for her attendance at these events. A charitable explanation would be she is seeking consulting gigs in order to pay the $250,000 fine she owes to the government, or she has reportedly introduced herself as the Web3 advisor at the Bitcoin conference. This is her, I guess, having a lunch or whatever. You can see her right there. And interesting. However, he did not point out the adversarial explanation would be that she is seeking to reduce her sentence by collecting intel on behalf of the government, aka a rat. As for whether Morgan may have become an asset to the U.S. government, Lopp points out few individuals are so ideologically opposed to the government they would choose extra prison time over cooperation. Amen, especially in a kleptocracy. Considering Morgan's self-proclaimed expertise in social engineering, Lopp said it's conceivable she might be using those skills on behalf of the state. This possibility further fuels the crypto community's wariness. Maybe she's working for the Biden administration. Have you thought of that one? Blacklisting conflicts within the Bitcoin core value of inclusivity. Lopp's call to deny Morgan entry to the Bitcoin conference has met resistance within the community. Critics argue that such a ban contradicts Bitcoin's culture inherent inclusivity and open ethos. This tension underscores a broader debate within the community about balancing security concerns with the principles of openness and inclusivity. The Bitcoin advocates champion. Lopp said he doesn't want to exclude her because of her beliefs. He believes she should be excluded because she is a known threat. He emphasized only a fool invites predators into events full of potential targets. And I'll give you a metaphor I just made up in my brain. So inviting her to the Bitcoin conference as a known threat, considering she's responsible for that $6 billion Bitcoin hack of 120,000 Bitcoin, is like inviting a vampire under your bed. Hey, what's wrong? Come visit me under my bed. I feel totally safe. What can go wrong with a vampire sleeping under my bed? Let me know your thoughts, yo. Wild ride out there. But anyways, family, next story of the day. Let's discuss the ETH ETF. This headline reads, Ethereum ETF launch drives $2.2 billion worth of inflows. Here's the latest data from CoinShares. The launch of the spot Ether ETFs in the U.S. marked one of the largest inflows to the asset since December 2022. According to the CoinShares report, newly issued spot Ether ETFs racked up a significant $2.2 billion in inflows alongside a 542% hike in ETH ETFs, or I should say ETPs, exchange traded products. The new inflow milestones were tempered by $285 million in overall net outflows from Grayscale's $1.5 billion Ethereum Trust. Alongside the ETH developments, Bitcoin attracted $3.6 billion in inflows over the last month, contributing to a year-to-date total of $19 billion, a historic high. Not too shabby, considering, the ETF inflows just began January 11th, 6 months out. And according to CoinShare analysts, the firm believes the surge is driven by speculation surrounding the upcoming U.S. elections and the potential for Bitcoin to become a strategic reserve asset. The analysts also attribute this to renewing investor confidence in the biddy, given the expectations of the Fed rate cut September. The report reveals that the digital asset market continues to grow, with total assets under management reaching $99.1 billion. Total inflows for 2024 have reached a record-breaking $20 billion year-to-date, as trading volumes across all digital assets rose to an all-time high in May in anticipation of the Ether ETFs. The report highlights that this record was broken on the week of July 22nd, totaling $15 billion, largely fueled by the launch of the Ether ETFs, despite digital asset investment products seeing only $245 million in inflows. That's because Grayscale outflows hit $1.5 billion. That's right. The Grayscale Ethereum Trust ETF outflows reached 1.5 billion, with net outflows topping 356 million in a single day. The newly converted Ethereum Trust ETF witnessed investors withdrew over 1.5 billion since the spot Ether ETF launched in the US July 23rd last week. Contrastingly, Grayscale's Ethereum Mini Trust ETH performed well, recording a net inflow of roughly 45 million on July 26th. So there you go, yo. What are your thoughts on some of the ETF volume, including the new Ether ETFs? Let me know. Next story of the day. Let's discuss this big target. I did share with you Plan B predicts the Bitcoin price is going to double in the next 3 to 5 months, which means 130 something thousand before the end of the year. Here's another bullish target, but this one is from Fundstrat's Thomas Lee. Headline reads, Fundstrat's Tom Lee says Fed rate cuts could trigger Bitcoin move to 100,000 or higher after the Mt. Gox resolution. That's right. Fundstrat's Tom Lee says the interest rate cutting cycle from the Fed could correlate to a bull market expansion for the Biddy. In a new interview with Skybridge Capital CEO, The Mooch, on the Wealthion pod, Lee said that Bitcoin could be looking at blue skies ahead, given the large distribution of coins from the German government has passed without collapsing the market. If Bitcoin can hold steady amid the ongoing Mt. Gox distribution, Lee says the Fed rate cut could be a massive catalyst to trigger the next big leg up for the Biddy. Quoting him here from the interview, it is hyper volatile asset, so it is affected by supply perceptions, not just demand perceptions. And on the supply side, you are exactly right. Mt. Gox is finally being resolved 10 years later. That's really been one of the biggest expected overhangs since the original hack from Heather Morgan. And so when the distribution, which is in July, when that's behind us and the markets see that there hasn't been a cataclysm, I think that is going to be a case for why Bitcoin does really well in the second half of the year. The Germany distribution, that is really strange timing, but that's already behind us now. And I'd say the only thing that I think would hurt crypto is that it is still correlated and viewed as a risk-on asset. So if the Fed is somehow unexpectedly tight, it would act as a headwind. But if the Fed starts a cutting, I think you're going to see a move in Bitcoin that would correlate to what small caps would be doing as well. There's a lot of things correlated to the Fed starting a cutting cycle. I think that $100,000 or even higher is possible. Bitcoin makes moves in very short periods of time. Amen. And we have published previously for many years showing that Bitcoin makes most of its gains in 10 trading days if you look at the percentage of gains. So those 10 days could be all in the second half of this year. And let me know if you agree or disagree with Thomas Lee. And he makes a good point there that when we have those massive parabolic run-ups, all it takes is 10 days. So I'll give you a hypothetical scenario. We're at 67 Gs. All of a sudden, later on in the year, we're still around 70 Gs. Then bada boom, bada bing, 90,000 in 10 days or 100,000 10 days later. It can happen. I remember when we hit the 69,000 all-time high, a few months prior, we were like 20,000. And we went from like 20,000 to 69,000 in a matter of weeks. I don't have the exact charts in front of me, so I don't know the exactly. I'm paraphrasing. But you see my point. Let's discuss the latest from Cynthia Lummis, then the latest from RFK Jr., his recent speech with Cointelegraph he gave exclusive right after the event, and I'll also recap what he shared at the event. So here we go. Senator Lummis proposes the U.S. accumulates 1 million biddies amid record-level national debt. That's right. Pro-crypto senator proposes legislation for the U.S. to stockpile 1 million biddies as the country's national debt continues to soar. Speaking at the Bitcoin 2024 conference, Republican Senator Lummis of Wyoming announced she will propose a bill to establish Bitcoin reserves as a mean of securing the value of the U.S. dollar amid the record-breaking national debt. And that's right. She spoke right after Trump and established a strategic Bitcoin reserve, she says, would firmly secure the dollar's position as the world's reserve currency into the 21st century and ensure we remain the world leader in financial innovation. Families across Wyoming, wow, the rain is coming down hard right now here in Puerto Rico, and the U.S. are struggling to keep up with soaring inflation rates and record-breaking costs while our national debt reaches unprecedented levels. Now more than ever, I think we just crossed 35 trillion the other day. We need to create a brighter future for generations of Americans by diversifying into the Biddy and securing an economic future. According to Lummis, the legislation will drive the U.S. government to accumulate 1 million BTC, which is 5% of the Bitcoin supply in 5 years. years, quoting her here, with a strategic Bitcoin reserve, we will have an asset that can cut our debt in half by 2045. She says the plan is to convert excess funds from the 12 Federal Reserve banks into Bitcoin over a period of half a decade. This is the solution. This is the answer. This is our Louisiana purchase moment. Meanwhile, as I just said, the debt, I think, just hit 35 trillion, which is, again, mind-boggling, family. Now for our featured story of the day. Here's the latest from RFK Jr., who is running for president, made some very bold promises if he is elected at the Nashville, Tennessee conference. I'm going to be recapping some of those promises with his executive orders that are very bullish for Bitcoin. Hands down, took the cake as far as the best speech that was delivered over the weekend. And also, he was interviewed exclusively by Cointelegraph. I'm going to be giving you the highlights, and that was right after the speech he gave in Nashville. So many of you have never heard this before, so let's freaking go. So yeah, headline reads, only Bitcoin can guarantee the US dollar's reserve currency status, according to RFK Jr. in this exclusive interview in which I'll be providing the highlights. But before we dive into that exclusive interview, first, I want to give you the highlights in case you missed what he shared on his speech at the event. I shared this over on X. It got a lot of love, 164 hearts, 41 reposts, so thank you, family. But here, RFK Jr. pledges 4 executive orders related to Bitcoin on day 1 as president. Here are his executive orders. Number 1, I will sign an executive order directing the US Treasury to purchase 550 Bitcoin daily until the US has built a reserve of at least 4 million Bitcoin, which is probably roughly 5% of the circulating supply. That would be pretty lit, wouldn't it? Number 2, I will sign an executive order directing the DOJ and the US Marshals to transfer approximately 200,000 Bitcoin held by the US government to the US Treasury, where it will be held as a strategic asset. Lo and behold, 120,000 Bitcoin now on the move from the government. Are they going to dump it so that no candidate can hold and stockpile the Bitcoin if RFK Jr. or Trump got into office? Let me know your thoughts. Number 3, I will also sign an executive order directing the IRS to issue a public guidelines that transactions between Bitcoin and the US dollar are unreportable transactions and by extension, non-taxable. To me, this is one of the most lit announcements and promises at the event. I think every Bitcoiner would like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, family. That's pretty amazing. And number 4, I will also sign an executive order directing the IRS to treat Bitcoin as an eligible asset for a 1031 exchange into real property. Very bullish as well. Very advantageous for us. You know what I mean? Now, that's pretty lit, family. And again, those were the highlights from the speech. And I strongly encourage everyone to watch the speech. It was definitely the highlight of the event based upon what I've seen thus far. But anyways, back to this story. Candidate RFK Jr., also known as RFK, Robert Kennedy Jr., believes policymakers in the U.S. are quickly realizing that Bitcoin is inevitable and are scrambling to develop a coherent digital asset strategy that will preserve America's fiscal dominance. In the exclusive interview with Cointelegraph at the 2024 Bitcoin conference in Nashville, Tennessee, RFK Jr. described his Bitcoin journey in greater detail. Before discussing the role Bitcoin should play in the country's monetary system, the presidential candidate, who dropped his Democratic affiliation last October to run as an independent, which FYI, I respect like a mofo, said he realized the importance of Bitcoin's transactional freedom during the trucker strike in Canada. RFK Jr. called the trucker strike a very peaceful protest where people were exercising freedoms that we take for granted in this country, like freedom of assembly, freedom to petition their government. But the Canadian government portrayed it publicly as kind of a terrorist event. Facts. They began using technologies like facial recognition systems to identify people who are participating and then freezing their bank accounts. I realized at the time that transactional freedom was important as freedom of expression that is protected by the First Amendment. Very powerful words right there. Agreed 100%. Now, fast forward more than 2 years later, U.S. policymakers realize there are 60 million Bitcoiners in the country. So they've been forced to change their tune on digital asset legislation, quoting RFK again. I think now it is past the point where it is inevitable. And now we need to move as a country that's able to get some control over Bitcoin as part of the reserve. In his view, a strategic Bitcoin reserve is the only way America can guarantee the future of the dollar as a permanent global reserve currency. To hear what RFK Jr. had to say about the Fed, monetary policy, and the role of the blockchain tech in preserving democracy, check out the interview by checking the show notes below the video in the description. And what are your thoughts on some of his promises he made if he is elected president, specifically these 4 executive orders I outlined for you, such as stockpiling 550 Bitcoin per day and building a reserve of 4 million biddies, basically hodling all the Bitcoin they confiscate, and all the tax advantageous, things I shared with you. Let me know, family, and I'll read your comments out loud. Welcome, family, to the Q&A segment of the live show. I like the second one, JV. They're all lit. All 4 are good, and we want them. Hit the likes, you bunch of degens. There's Jay Beezy. Good to see you, brother. I channeled you earlier. I said if Jay Beezy was here, he'd say, hit the likes, you bunch of degens. You know what I mean? But yeah, we don't want the government to sell the Bitcoin in which they're holding right now, and that may be precisely what the plan is with the Dem administration. When RFK makes Bitcoin currency, all will follow. Global reserve, 1 million Bitcoin guaranteed. Well, you got a guarantee right there from Satwise. Bada boom, bada bing, 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 bada boom. RFK is not doing as bad as people think. Agree there, Devon. So here's the argument in the crypto sphere right now. Don't vote RFK. Yeah, he has the best policies for Bitcoin, but don't vote for him. It's a wasted vote against Trump. So let me know if that's true in your opinions, or if that's just nonsense. I want to know your thoughts. But that's the biggest argument I hear. We agree. RFK, he gets Bitcoin the most. He's a maxi. He's like us. However, voting for him is a waste. Let me know your thoughts. Diana Jones says, excellent. Trump will appoint RFK or Saylor to advise Bitcoin. That is what a great leader does. Amen, Baccarat.